In 2022, we celebrate 130 years of HBCU football. On December 27, 1892, Livingstone and Biddle College, now known as Johnson C. Smith University, played in Salisbury, North Carolina, with Biddle winning 5-0. Over time, HBCU football has evolved. HBCU football's popularity continues to rise. Millions attend games each year and millions more watch on television. The HBCU bands provide some of the top entertainment in the country. Over that time, some of the best players to ever play in the National Football League played at HBCUs. Every Monday through Friday on the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, national radio and television host Donal Ware takes a look at what's happening in HBCU football and talks with coaches, players, administrators, and media about the 2022 season. Make sure you join the conversation on social media by using the hashtag HBCU130. Now, here's your host, Donal Ware.
You've got it locked to the HBCU Football Daily Podcast for today, Thursday, October 6th. I'm Donal Ware. It's the time now where we transition into week 6 of the HBCU football season. We've got some good matchups for week 6. Alabama A&M is going to be at home hosting Grambling. Alabama A&M looking to build upon its first win of the season against Bethune-Cookman on last Saturday. Meanwhile, Grambling is struggling coming off the loss to Prairie View A&M in the State Fair Classic. Central State is hosting Fort Valley State. If you're Fort Valley State, you want to try to bounce back from the loss last week to Benedict to try to have some semblance of trying to continue to compete for that SIAC Eastern Division Championship, which Benedict is the favorite, has to be the favorite right now. Johnson C. Smith is hosting Shaw. So Southern Division play in the CIAA begins. Yes, Shaw lost last week to Virginia State, who is playing some really good football. You look at that Northern Division, you've got Virginia State playing well. You've got Virginia Union playing well. And you've got the defending champs, in Bowie State playing well. So that Southern Division is really wide open to some degree right now. Fayetteville State, obviously the defending champs there, going to have something to say. Livingstone hosts Winston-Salem State. Winston-Salem State canceled its game, canceled homecoming last week due to Hurricane Ian. The game I'm going to be in Baltimore. MEAC play opens on Saturday. Morgan State is hosting Norfolk State. It is homecoming at Morgan State. Lincoln of Pennsylvania. Now, this is a Lincoln of Pennsylvania team that's won a couple of games, going to host Shawan. Shawan is struggling a little bit so far this season. West Virginia State looking to make it 2 wins in a row. West Virginia State now over 500, still looking to compete for that Mountain East Conference, will be hosting West Virginia Wesleyan. It is homecoming there in Institute, West Virginia. Virginia Union, as at home, is going to be taking on Elizabeth City State. It is homecoming in Richmond. In a pretty big game, Alabama State is hosting Jackson State. Now, for Alabama State, off to a decent start so far this season. Jackson State is coming off a bye week and really has been dominating through 4 games. Coming off that bye week, going to get some guys healthy, maybe in that defensive secondary, and we'll see how this game certainly plays out. Arkansas Pine Bluff is at home and is hosting Texas Southern. As a matter of fact, going back to Montgomery, Alabama, and Alabama State, it is homecoming there in Montgomery. Lane coming off the huge upset win over Tennessee State, still looking to fight for that Western Division crown in the SIAC, is hosting Kentucky State. Lincoln of Missouri, I continue to say it's just been a struggle. Looking for its first win of the season, is hosting Missouri Southern. Benedict, now Benedict is hosting Miles. Now, this is, to me, is a trap game for Benedict in this respect. Not that Miles is necessarily a trap opponent. Miles has got a solid football team. It's just that if you're Benedict, You don't want to look past this game, looking ahead to the game on next week. So you got to keep your eyes on the prize and handle business at home against Miles. Fayetteville State is at home hosting St. Augustine's. Hampton is at home hosting Maine. South Carolina State is hosting Florida A&M. Maybe this is the HBCU national game of the week. We shall see on tomorrow. South Carolina State hasn't gotten off to the great start. Meanwhile, Florida A&M is continuing to play some solid football. Savannah State going to be at home hosting Virginia University of Lynchburg. It is homecoming there in Savannah. Another big game could be HBCU national game of the week. Virginia State is hosting Bowie State. Now, Virginia State's playing some pretty good football. Bowie State got a win last week. Maybe not off to the start that the Bulldogs want to be off to, but the Bulldogs are the defending Northern Division champs. This promises to be an excellent football game there in Petersburg, and we certainly have our eye on that football game. Prairie View A&M is at home taking on Southern. Prairie View A&M is playing some really good football right now. Southern is coming off a nice win last week over Arkansas Pine Bluff. Tennessee State looking for that first victory of the season and is going to take on Bethune-Cookman. That's going to be a tough game for both teams, really. But for Tennessee State's looking for that first win of the season. Mississippi Valley State is at home hosting Alcorn State. Allen at home hosting Clark Atlanta. Allen's been scoring some points, hadn't quite been able to get over the hump. We'll see what happens against Clark Atlanta. Edward Waters is hosting Albany State. Morehouse and Tuskegee get together in Birmingham, Alabama for the Morehouse-Tuskegee Classic. I don't know how many classics they've played, Morehouse and Tuskegee. This is always a great game on a neutral site. It's in Birmingham, and they played this game for maybe 90 years, something certainly like that. Also, Florida Memorial is at home, is on the road hosting Warner. Florida Memorial on the road hosting Warner. Texas College is on the road. Well, I say Florida Memorial on the road hosting. Florida Memorial is on the road against Warner, and Texas College is on the road against Ottawa. Finally, Bluefield State is on the road against Fort Lauderdale. You look at Bluefield State, 3-2 on the season, receiving votes in the HBCU Division II coaches poll. So that's a look at week 6 in HBCU football. Some of the matchups. We've got a couple of games we've got to look at in terms of our HBCU national game of the week. I mentioned the possibility of 3 games, and so we'll have the HBCU national game of the week for you on tomorrow. Don't forget to tell a couple of friends about the HBCU Football Daily Podcast, where you can find us on our website at box2row.com, also on iHeartMedia.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and you can watch on the Box to Row YouTube page. Talk with you tomorrow.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the HBCU Football Daily Podcast. You can also listen to the podcast at box2row.com, iHeartMedia, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to get your HBCU football fix on Box to Row with Donal Ware each weekend on the radio station near you, and on SiriusXM on HBCU, Channel 142, and on ESPNU Radio on SiriusXM, Channel 84. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Box to Row for the latest in HBCU football, and don't forget to tell a friend.